Good morning and welcome back to our devotion. As I sip on my red tea, I'd like to take you to the word EZER or helper. I think this is one of the most misunderstood word in the Bible. When we think about the word helper as found in Genesis chapter 2 verse 18, it seems to convey a message that a helper is somebody who is of a lower rank or inferior or somebody who's less important or less powerful than us. So it has demoralized many of the working women who has been described as somebody who is only here to assist her husband or something like that. I think this is not the concept what the Bible is trying to tell us. For instance, if you look, I want to ask a question: whom do we turn to help for? Whom do we turn to help when we need some help? We don't go to someone who is less powerful. We don't need to. We do not go to someone who is less stronger than us or very weaker than us. We go to someone who is very powerful, who is more stronger and mightier than us. I think the word in Hebrew, the Hebrew word in the Bible is talking about, EZER is found 21 times. The word EZER, and in three times it talks about the powerful nation that came to the rescue of Israel. And 19 times it refers to God. God as a powerful, the supreme being, the creator of heavens and the earth. So I think we need to understand that now. Even to the concept of God as our helper, I think people like Bonhoeffer, one of the theologians of the 1940s, he described God as people misunderstood God as a stopgap God. What he's trying to say is that we think God as a help only when we need Him, only when we don't understand things, on a moral things or scientific things, or when we don't understand or comprehend certain things, we tend to look at God as a stopgap. I think this concept has, brought it to a point where in a last devotion I was talking about we killing God in our minds, as God has become irrelevant to a scientific mind. I think this is exactly what we're trying to do. We try to take God for granted. We take His grace for granted all the time because God is there for us anytime we need. The Japanese theologian Kosuke Koima, he says the cross with a handle. We pop up Jesus whenever we want Him, whenever we need Him. Oh God, only when we need Him. Other times, he becomes irrelevant. He just vanishes into thin air. I think this is not the way we accept and understand God. So in a way we understand woman as a helper in Genesis chapter 2 verse 18, and the way we understand God as our helper. I think if we try to re-understand this word, reread this word as a helper is somebody who is stronger than us, mightier than us. If you understand in that word, because God in Exodus chapter 18 verse 4, God is looked as our helper. And in Psalms number 124 verse 8, it says, our God, our help is the name of the Lord. And in John chapter 14 verse 26, I will send a helper who will teach and guide you in all ways. I think when we try to understand this, I think we will not take God for granted. As someone, a helper is not just an assistant, but somebody who is much more stronger, more powerful, and who will, in all things will help us and guide us through everything. I think there was a time when I was a little younger, before I went into my theological studies, somebody asked me, how do you understand God best? I said, God is understood as best in a way I confide in the best friend. John chapter 15, He is my friend. But when we take things for granted, then we tend to lose, the kind of relationship that we share with God. I think we should never take this help as a God for granted and look up at Him as just a stopgap. I think this is all that I wanted to, the way we understand woman as a helper is totally different now, I believe. And the way we understand God as our helper, I think you should be able to understand this. And I pray that blessings will come in our Christian life. We never take God for granted. Thank you, and God bless us all.